Hello and welcome to Building Resilience in Children. Hope you're all okay and you are enjoying the summer. Now, today, what I thought that we will do a little bit different on this video, and mostly actually sharing the process behind the scenes and what we have been doing, how we have been doing it. Now, ever since we started this project, so it came to me during the pandemic when I started collaborating with parents to kind of see how we can use digital platforms to create some kind of bonding, but also so children can come together to enjoy that space with us. And it was very much, because it was a lockdown, we didn't have much to do, but also many of us were doing quite a stressful job as key workers. So it was very important that as parents, we support each other, and that's where it started. So it started as a Facebook group where I thought, okay, me and my daughter at home, so it would be really good to kind of actually bond with and understand it from other parents and learn from other parents, how they are coping, how they are managing with the situation. And that's how it started. And now, of course, we have from 2020 to now we are in 2023 making content. Of course, YouTube content was not our primary focus. Our primary focus was very much around doing workshops in schools and nurseries and with parents in local libraries, and it's still our priority. So that's how we're collecting the data, but that's how we are empowering the communities and working very closely with the communities. And whatever you see on this channel comes out of those workshops. Whether we have written down some of the questions and now we are creating content on that, or some of the discussions or some of the stories that were shared by the parents that we are then bringing it to you. Now, then this week it came to my mind that yes, we have been talking about the contents from the workshops, but actually there is also a thing that we can do around skill development, and that is where this idea for the development of skills came into my mind, and this is where I started thinking about making this video. So it's not just about how I'm doing it behind the scenes, but also giving you a little bit of an overview of how to do things and how you can also become a content creator. Now, content creation doesn't mean that you have to be a big YouTuber, using all the gears and everything. It doesn't have to be like that. Content creation is a very creative form. It's something where you are thinking about the content, you're thinking about how to make it. It doesn't have to be always from a wider outside audience. It can be also just be used for the purpose of your child's education. But whatever it is fun, and also it is very much therapeutic, and that's why I thought that it will be really good. We have been experimenting in some workshops where we have been doing video editing for therapeutic purposes, and this is one of the things that has not been talked much about, but I think that there is a lot that can be done. So as parents, sometimes you might not find and you might time to actually put together things, or sometimes you might struggle. You think, well, what do I do actually, so again, this is something that you can take up with your child. They will be learning, developing their skills, but you will also have some fun creating contents together, and in that way you're also creating memories. But anyway, so that's my perspective, and I thought that it would be really good to give you an overview of that, but also to take you through the process. So in this video I'm going to actually talk you through 6 steps of creating video content. Yeah. Now, this is not about how you create a video and get popular on YouTube, but this is more about creating the video content itself and the process. So, um, now, creating educational videos can be a highly effective way to engage your learners and to deliver the information. So, when I say engage your learners, the learner can be just your child at home, or if you're thinking, okay, going a bit wider, of course, you can think about the demographics. Sometimes we do target South Asian audiences, sometimes we create content, particularly for a gap, where possibly people because of migration come into a country and they don't understand the educational system. So it's just kind of a space where we make it a little bit easier for them to understand how things work, how concepts work, because different educational concepts, educational concepts or educational system works differently in different countries. Ours is very much focused around the UK educational system. And what we are trying to do is to kind of um, bring to you the way that you can actually do research, and you can work with your child to develop it. I'm not talking about the hardcore research, but I'm talking about the very, very basic content creation research, where basically you're going to look into some content, going to find some facts, and then you're going to present that in a video form. So it might seem quite daunting at the beginning, quite intimidating, but and also you might think, well, this is time consuming. Yes, it is. So when you start it, it is time consuming. But as you go along the process and you repeat this process time and again, it becomes much more easier. Okay. So it takes a lot of thinking. Yes. It takes a lot of planning. So let's just delve into it and see. Now, before we go into the steps, actually, let me show you some of the ways that people like to make content. Of course, where you can talk to your audience and make the video that way, or you might think of using some of the softwares to then produce that educational content. That's another way. Or you can also think about voiceovers and then contents, getting the b rolls from somewhere and then putting that in. So whichever way you feel comfortable, you can actually start making your own educational content or informational content. Now, the first step that I was talking about is the planning and content creation. Now, what is very important at this stage is to define your learning objectives. So, clearly outline something, write it down somewhere, what you want your viewers to learn about from this video. Now, this will help you focus on content and ensure it aligns with your educational goals. So, whatever purpose you want to achieve. Now, we will come to towards the very end. So, stay tuned with us. So, we will kind of show you how to do that through a particular topic. The second thing that you're going to think about there is the storyboarding. So create a rough visual. It doesn't have to be a very arty one, but a rough visual around, okay, how are you going to plan your story? So that's very important. Think about the structure, think about the scenes, transitions, the visuals, and of course the narration and the script. So how are you going to tell the story? It doesn't always have to be a voiceover. You can also do it by writing. So from that point, then you start thinking about developing your script or outlining that script, gathering those visuals that you're thinking about, or images, or diagrams, or animations, however way you want to make it. So that's your planning and content creation. And that's um, oftentimes is in a very raw form. Okay. And then of course it's very much like cooking. So you kind of find the ingredients first and then you put them in one place and then you can blend it, and with practice it gets better. So the second thing that you have to then think about is the scripting and the narration. So how are you going to write the script? Now, you can develop a detailed script that outlines what will be said or displayed at each point in your video, if that makes you more comfortable. And I think sometimes, but when you're starting off, I think that's the best way to start it. Keep the language simple, clear, concise, and suitable for your target audience. That's very important. Now, if you are using voiceover for narration, record your narration according to the script, okay? But all you have to do is you have to ensure that it's clear and engaging tone and pay attention to the pacing and the pronunciation so it becomes much more clearer, because there are people, who are whose first language is not English. And of course, as of mine, including mine, my first language is Bengali, but of course I do use English quite a lot because of working purposes. But that not to make sure, when you're making this content, you have to make sure that people do understand it. And that's the most important thing that you're trying to achieve through these contents. Secondly, you have to think about the visual design. So the visual elements, say for example, so creating that or gathering those visual support for your content is very important, whether they be the images or diagrams or animations. Then you have to think about a consistent style. So maintain a consistent visual style throughout the video so that it doesn't actually distract your audience, and it actually enhances the comprehension and create a professional appearance. That's very important. So you're trying to do it in a way that it becomes visually appealing for your audience. Next, of course, you have to look into the video production. Now, unless you are doing a video in itself, you don't have to worry about it much. But if you're recording the footage, so then you have to think about if your video includes live actions or demonstrations, then you have to record high quality footage. Pay attention to lighting, sound quality. That's another thing. Camera stability, and then of course that also brings us to think about the editing technique. So how do you compile all of these visuals and audio elements? How do you edit it? How do you actually edit out some of the mistakes? But what I will say is that when you're making content, I believe that that also gives you some of its live feel. Now, you might make mistakes, we all make mistakes, and not always you have to wipe out those mistakes, because in that way, I think it kind of creates a little bit of reality into your video as well. So you don't have to always overthink about it, I would say. So from video production, once you have done that, if you are including footage, if you are not including footage, you don't have to worry about it at all. Then you have to think about, of course, the engagement techniques. So what kind of interactivity are you looking for? So consider incorporating some of the interactive elements. So if you want to put in some quizzes, you can do polls, you can do clickable links, however way you want to do that. And of course, your engaging visuals, where you use the animations to tell the story and also ask your audience. So what we call is call to action. So you ask your audience to do something. And so that's another way that you can engage. But you can also think about what are the social media platforms that you're going to concentrate on. You don't have to use all of this, or maybe you're not using the social media at all. It's very much for yourself. So whatever you want to do, of course, if you want to go out, then you have to think about the publishing of it. Where do you publish it, and how do you distribute it? So that's where the question of video hosting comes in. So you can upload your video to a suitable platform for hosting, such as YouTube, Vimeo, or a learning management system. So depending on what you do. So and then you have to think about the accessibility as well. So ensure that your video is accessible to all learners by adding closed captions or subtitles. Those are becoming very, very important these days, of course, on online platforms. Next that you have to think about is the promotion and sharing. So if applicable, if you want to promote it, then you have to think about which social media channels or newsletters, whatever you are going to use for it. So that brings us to the end of the concept. Now, what we are going to look at is the application. So, say for example, with all of these six steps, I want to create a video. And for today's topic, maybe I'm going to pick a topic. Okay, so you've got several topics in mind going on, but you have to focus on one thing that you want to start with. Okay, now for today's video, I have chosen the topic plants. So I'm going to make something around plants. I don't know what yet, okay, but that's my initial thought, because of course I think that it's an engaging one. It can be used within a curriculum, and of course children take a lot of interest in plants. So okay, now that I've thought about plants, I have to think about what is it that I'm going to do about plants. Okay, so you think of your topic and the general storyline from start to finish. So what kind of story am I going to say? Okay, how am I going to start it? What's going to be the middle, and what's going to be in the end? Okay, and those are the primary points that you're touching on in your script as well. So once you have decided upon, okay, what am I going to do, then you're going to start writing your script. Okay, and you're going to write down those your scripts. You're going to break them down into different scenes. And if you want to shoot, you can. If you don't want to shoot, you can use the b-rolls to actually create your video content. It can be very engaging, particularly for children. Okay, so now just moving to the topic that we were talking about is the plants. We have to now think about, we can't make everything about plants in one content. You don't want to have a 2 hour content. What you're looking for, maybe a 10 minutes or 15 minutes content max, shorter the merrier. Okay, so now that we've thought about the plants, now I'm going to think about, okay, what my focus is going to be on. Am I going to focus on the food production and the survival of the plants? So, am I going to focus on the photosynthesis, and give a lot of information around photosynthesis and how it happens? Or am I going to focus on the pollination and trying to focus more on bees, giving a perspective and talking through what happens? Or am I going to talk about plant adaptation? How do they adapt to environments, and what we need to do to support the plants to grow better? Okay, so once you have decided the bigger topic, then you have to think about the shorter ones and think about, okay, what's going to be my focus in that content. Once you have decided that, then you have to start thinking about your b-rolls or shooting. It might be when you're out in the park, you can take some footage from there. Or if you're going to visit any garden center, you can take some footage from there. Or you can also create some footage in your garden. Whatever it is, you're thinking about creating that footage that then matches with the content that you're going to talk about. And then once you have done that, of course, then you're putting those pieces together. So one, the script, two, the b-rolls, and three, of course, your editing software that then will actually help you to create that video. Okay, we are going to look into a software again in another video. We won't have, I don't want to make a very long content. Of course, I want to make it shorter so that you can listen it in your time, but also it doesn't consume a lot of your time. So once we have done the editing of the video, then you might think about, okay, you know what, I'm not going to use voiceover. I'm going to use only the short contents and stuff, and the details of it, by just kind of using some of the titles and subtitles, and I'm going to use some music to it. Or you might think, well, I'm going to use the narration, but at the same time I'm going to use some audio or some music as a background. Okay, so whatever you decide at the end of your editing comes adding your music or your audio. Okay, and then final touches, of course, that's where you're finalizing the titles, subtitles. You're making sure that there are no spelling mistakes. You're making sure that the alignments are okay. And how do you think about the alignments? Again, we will make another content on that. But particularly, you're adding your final touches and ready for your audience. Okay, so if you follow these steps, and you can start making your video just now. So start making one. If you want to share it with us, we are happy to help make you more content. And of course, the purpose is not to actually um, be a YouTuber. The purpose is very much to use content as educational purposes, but also to make fun. And as I said before as well, that is very therapeutic. But that's it for today. We will be back soon with another episode, continuing from this one. But this is a very, very fast basic video that I wanted to make. Happy creating, and I hope that you make videos and you share with us, and you can write to us as well if you want us to host, or you've got some more tips around creating content, or you want to share your experience of creating that content that you've created for the first time. Please do write to us. We will get back to you. And we also will start doing some interviews with content creators or parents who are trying to be content creators, who are starting to be content creators. So please do write to us. That's our email here, contact at brick22 .com. But you can also get in touch with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All the links are in the description below. Okay, so happy creating. I'll see you in the next one. Till then, stay well. Bye.